The deep space sensors aboard the UES Sentinel picked up the anomaly. At 300 hours ship time, Commander Sarah Chen stood at the bridge's main viewport, her dark eyes fixed on the endless sea of stars before her. 20 years of naval service had taught her to trust her instincts, and right now, every fiber of her being screamed that something was wrong. "Report," she commanded, her voice steady despite the unease growing in her chest. Lieutenant Marcus Rodriguez, her sensor officer, worked his console with practiced efficiency. "Multiple contacts, Commander. They just appeared at the edge of our detection range. No matching signatures in our database." The Sentinel, humanity's most advanced deep space vessel, had been patrolling the outer reaches of colonized space for 3 months. Their mission was simple: protect the expanding frontier of human civilization. But now, facing an unknown force that had appeared from nowhere, that mission had become considerably more complicated. "How many contacts?" Chen asked, already moving to her command chair. 37 distinct signatures, Commander. Their configuration suggests a battle fleet." Chen's jaw tightened. The Sentinel was a formidable ship, the pride of the United Earth Space Force. But even she couldn't handle those numbers alone. "Send an encrypted burst transmission to command. Priority Alpha." Then sound General Quarters. The bridge erupted into controlled chaos as klaxons blared throughout the ship. The crew of 500 moved with practiced precision to their battle stations. Chief Engineer Kai Patel's voice crackled over the comm. "Engineering ready, Commander. Fusion reactors at full capacity." Chen watched as the unknown vessels drew closer. Their design was unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. Organic curves melded with crystalline structures, creating ships that seemed to absorb the very starlight around them. Beautiful and terrifying. "They're accelerating," Rodriguez reported, his voice tense. "Multiple weapon systems powering up." Chen had hoped for peaceful first contact, but it seemed the universe had other plans. "Launch Probe 1, she ordered. "Let's see if we can establish communication." The small probe shot out from the Sentinel's hull, broadcasting standard first contact protocols on all frequencies. For 30 seconds, nothing happened. Then, without warning, one of the alien vessels fired a beam of coherent energy that vaporized the probe instantly. "Message received," Chen muttered. "Tactical. Bring all weapons online. Helm, plot us an escape vector to the Newton colony. We need to warn them." But before the Sentinel could execute its retreat, the alien fleet split into attack formations with impossible speed and precision. Energy weapons lanced out across space, forcing Chen's ship into evasive maneuvers. "Return fire," Chen ordered. "All batteries, concentrate on their lead vessel." The Sentinel's railguns roared to life, accelerating tungsten rounds to relativistic speeds. Missile pods emptied their lethal payload into space, creating a wall of approaching destruction. The aliens were fast, but they couldn't dodge everything. The lead ship took multiple hits, its hull crackling with released energy. For a moment, it seemed to shudder in space. Then it exploded in a brilliant flash of light, the detonation taking 2 nearby vessels with it. But the victory was short-lived. The remaining alien ships pressed their attack with renewed fury, their weapons finding gaps in the Sentinel's defenses. The ship shuddered as multiple hits breached its armor. "Hull breaches on decks 4 through 7. The damage control officer shouted. "Emergency force fields holding." Chen gripped her command chair as another volley rocked the ship. "Engineering, I need more power to the shields." "The main reactor's already at 110%. Patel responded. "Any more, and we risk a cascade failure." The situation was deteriorating rapidly. The Sentinel had bloodied the alien fleet's nose, but they were still grossly outnumbered. Chen watched as more enemy ships moved to surround them, cutting off their escape routes one by one. That's when she saw it, a pattern in their movement. The aliens were coordinating their attacks with incredible precision, but they were also predictable. Each ship maintained perfect formation, never deviating from their geometric patterns of attack. Tactical, load our remaining missile pods with nuclear warheads, Chen ordered, a plan forming in her mind. Helm, on my mark. I want full power to the engines. We're going to punch straight through their formation. Her crew looked at her with surprise, but no one questioned the order. They had served together long enough to trust their commander's judgment, even when it seemed insane. Engineering. Divert all power from non-essential systems to the forward shields, Chen continued. We only get one shot at this. The alien fleet continued to close in, their formation tightening like a noose. Chen waited, counting down in her head as the enemy ships moved exactly where she predicted they would. Now, she shouted, fire all missiles and execute full burn. The Sentinel's missile pods emptied in a single devastating salvo, nuclear warheads streaking toward the alien formation. At the same time, the ship's engines flared to life, pushing the vessel to its structural limits as it accelerated directly toward the enemy. The aliens, maintaining their perfect formation, moved to intercept the missiles exactly as Chen had predicted. But they had made a critical error. Their coordinated movement had created a momentary gap in their lines, directly in the Sentinel's path. Nuclear fire bloomed in space as the warheads detonated, creating a massive electromagnetic pulse that disrupted the alien ship's systems. The Sentinel, its forward shields reinforced, plowed through the chaos and debris, breaking free of the encirclement. Multiple hits on enemy vessels, Tactical reported, excitement creeping into his voice. Their formation is broken. Chen allowed herself a small smile. Plot a course to Newton Colony, maximum speed, and prepare a full tactical analysis of the engagement. Earth needs to know what we're up against. As the Sentinel raced toward safety, Chen knew this was only the beginning. Humanity had just fought its first interstellar battle, and while they had survived, the real war was just beginning. The aliens would be back, and next time, they would be ready for humanity's tricks. But they would learn something too. That humanity wouldn't go quietly into the night. They would fight, adapt, and overcome, just as they always had. The galaxy was about to learn why you don't underestimate the human race. Newton Colony's orbital defense grid buzzed with activity as the UES Sentinel limped into range. Commander Chen watched through the bridge's cracked viewport as repair drones swarmed toward her wounded ship. The vessel had sustained heavy damage during their escape, but they had survived. And more importantly, they had brought vital intelligence about humanity's new enemy. Admiral James Torres waited in Newton Colony's command center, his weathered face grave as he reviewed the Sentinel's combat footage. A holographic display showed the alien ships moving with their unnaturally perfect precision, their weapons tearing through space. 300 years of wondering if we were alone in the universe, Torres said, pausing the footage. And this is how we find out. He turned to Chen, who stood at attention despite her exhaustion. Your actions saved not only your ship but potentially this entire colony, Commander. But I fear you've only delayed the inevitable. Sir? Chen asked, though she already suspected what he meant. Torres gestured to another hologram, this one showing long-range sensor data. We've detected multiple gravitational disturbances at the edge of our sensor range. Whatever these beings are, they're gathering a much larger force. Chief Engineer Patel, who had joined them for the briefing, stepped forward. Admiral, during the battle, we'd noticed something unusual about their attack patterns. They moved with perfect synchronization, almost like they were being controlled. Chen finished. We used that predictability against them, but they'll adapt. Next time, they won't make the same mistakes. Torres nodded grimly, which is why we need to prepare for full-scale war. The United Earth government has already ordered general mobilization. Every ship, every soldier, every resource we have is being redirected to defense. But Chen wasn't listening anymore. Her attention had been caught by something in the combat footage, something she hadn't noticed during the heat of battle. Can you enhance this section? She asked, pointing to a particular frame. The hologram zoomed in on one of the alien vessels just as it was struck by the Sentinel's weapons. For a split second, its hull had cracked, revealing something beneath the organic crystalline surface. Machinery, but not like any human technology. "Those aren't ships," Chen said, her eyes widening with realization. "They're drones, highly advanced, but automated. There's no crew aboard those vessels." Patil leaned in closer, his engineering mind already racing with possibilities. That would explain their perfect coordination. But every drone needs a control signal, and every signal can be jammed. Torres finished, understanding dawning on his face. "Commander, I'm giving you a new mission. You'll have 72 hours to get the Sentinel combat ready. We need to test this theory before their main force arrives." The next 3 days passed in a blur of activity. The Newton colony shipyards worked around the clock to repair the Sentinel's battle damage, while Patil and his engineering team developed a radical new electronic warfare suite. They cannibalized communication arrays, modified sensor systems, and wrote entirely new combat algorithms. Chen spent the time drilling her crew mercilessly, preparing them for what was to come. The aliens, or their drones, would be expecting their previous tactics. They needed to be ready with something new. On the morning of the 4th day, long-range sensors detected the alien fleet entering the system. This time, there were over 200 vessels, their crystalline hulls gleaming in the light of Newton's star. "All hands, battle stations," Chen ordered, her voice calm despite the odds they faced. The Sentinel, newly repaired and modified, moved to intercept. They were the only ship in range. The rest of the Earth fleet was still hours away. "Engineering reports ready," Rodriguez announced from his station. "New EW systems online." Chen took a deep breath, studying the approaching enemy fleet. They maintained their perfect formation, apparently confident in their superior numbers. "Deploy our surprise," she ordered. Hidden compartments in the Sentinel's hull opened, releasing dozens of modified communication satellites. Each one was broadcasting on frequencies specifically chosen to interfere with the theoretical drone control signals. For a moment, nothing happened. The alien fleet continued its advance, weapons charging. Then suddenly, their perfect formation began to waver. Ships started moving erratically, their coordinated patterns breaking down. "It's working," Patil shouted over the comm. "Their control signals are compromising, but they're already trying to adapt. We've got maybe 5 minutes before they switch frequencies." "Then let's make them count," Chen replied. "All weapons, fire at will. Target their command and control nodes." The Sentinel's guns roared to life, taking advantage of the aliens' momentary confusion. This time, their shots struck with devastating effect, each hit causing cascading failures through the drone ship's linked systems. But the alien fleet was vast, and even in disarray, they were incredibly dangerous. Energy beams lanced out, scoring hits along the Sentinel's hull. Warning klaxons blared as systems began to fail. "Hull breach, Deck 3. Someone shouted, losing power to forward shields. Chen gripped her command chair as another hit rocked the ship. They had bloodied the enemy's nose again, but they couldn't keep this up alone. They needed multiple contacts. Rodriguez called out, coming in fast from the direction of Earth. Through the viewport, Chen saw them, the first wave of Earth's defense fleet, arriving ahead of schedule. Dozens of ships dropped out of FTL, weapons already firing. Leading them was the massive form of the UES Hercules, humanity's first true battleship. "Commander Chen," a familiar voice crackled over the comm. "Admiral Torres sends his compliments. Hope you don't mind if we join the party." The battle that followed would be remembered as the Newton Defense, humanity's first major victory against an alien force. The drone fleet, their coordination disrupted and their weaknesses exposed, was methodically destroyed by the combined Earth fleet. But as Chen watched the last enemy vessel explode in a brilliant flash of light, she knew this was just the beginning. Somewhere out there, whoever had created these drones was watching, learning, adapting. The real war hadn't even started yet. And yet, for the first time since that first contact, Chen felt something like hope. Humanity had faced its first true interstellar threat and emerged victorious. They had proven that despite their technological disadvantages, human ingenuity and determination could overcome seemingly impossible odds. The galaxy was about to learn a valuable lesson. Never underestimate the human capacity for survival. The victory celebration at Newton Colony lasted less than 6 hours. Commander Chen was in the middle of a tactical debriefing when the first reports came in. Massive gravitational disturbances, far larger than anything they'd seen before, appearing simultaneously across human space. Multiple contacts, closing fast on Proxima Centauri, Ta Ceti, and Ross 128 colonies, Admiral Torres announced, his face ashen as he studied the tactical display. These aren't drone ships. These are something else entirely. The holographic display showed massive vessels emerging from FTL, each one easily dwarfing the largest human battleship. Their design was different from the drone ships, less crystalline, more overtly mechanical, with surfaces that seemed to ripple and shift like liquid metal. They're broadcasting, Rodriguez reported from his station. The message came through in perfect English, the voice deep and resonant with an artificial undertone. Humans of Earth, you have proven interesting. Your victory over our probe fleet was unexpected, unprecedented, but ultimately irrelevant. We are the architects, and we have come to determine if your species deserves to exist. Chen felt a chill run down her spine. The drone fleet hadn't been an invasion, it had been a test. And now the real threat had arrived. All colonies are reporting simultaneous attacks, Torres said, his voice tight with controlled fear. They're deploying some kind of advanced combat units, not drones this time. Something worse. The tactical feeds from the colony showed nightmare creatures of metal and energy, forms that seemed to defy physics as they phased through solid matter. Conventional weapons passed harmlessly through them, while their attacks cut through the strongest defensive shields like they weren't there. Proxima Centauri colony has gone dark, someone reported. Ta Ceti reporting massive casualties. Ross 128 is under full evacuation, but their orbital defenses are failing. Chen watched in horror as humanity's carefully built interstellar civilization began to crumble. The architects' forces were overwhelming. Their technology so advanced it might as well have been magic. The jamming techniques that had worked against the drones were useless against these new enemies. We need to coordinate our defense. Torres began, but another voice cut him off. Admiral. New contact, closing fast on Newton Colony. A massive architect vessel, larger than any they'd seen yet, dropped out of FTL practically on top of them. Its surface churned like a storm of liquid metal, forming and reforming into impossible shapes. Attention human vessels. The same artificial voice broadcast. Your species has shown remarkable adaptability. But adaptation is not enough. True evolution requires pressure. The vessel's surface erupted, disgorging thousands of combat units. But these were different from the ones attacking the other colonies. They were smaller, faster, and seemed to target very specific systems. They're going after our FTL drives. Patel shouted over the comm. They're trying to strand us here. Chen watched as ship after ship lost their faster-than-light capability, trapped in normal space. The architect vessel hung in orbit like a malevolent god, watching the chaos unfold. But something about their tactics nagged at Chen's tactical mind. The architects could have easily destroyed them all, yet they were specifically targeting FTL systems. They weren't trying to kill humanity. They were containing them, isolating them. They're running an experiment, she realized aloud. Testing our responses, our adaptability, just like with the drone fleet, but on a larger scale. Torres looked at her sharply. To what end? Understanding, Chen replied, her mind racing. They want to see how we handle impossible situations, how we evolve under pressure. As if confirming her theory, the architect vessel broadcast again. Correct. Commander Chen, your species' capacity for understanding is notable. You have 6 hours to demonstrate your worth. Survive our testing, adapt to our weapons, or be deemed evolutionary dead ends. The combat units pressed their attack with renewed vigor, but now Chen saw them differently. Each one used a specific type of advanced technology: phase shifting, energy manipulation, gravity control. They weren't just trying to kill, they were presenting problems to be solved. "Admiral," Chen said, a desperate plan forming in her mind. "I need every engineer, physicist, and tactical officer we have. And I need access to the colony's quantum computing array." Torres raised an eyebrow. "You have a plan. The architects want to see us adapt. Let's show them what human adaptation really looks like. They've given us examples of their technology in action. If we can analyze enough data, find patterns, we might be able to develop countermeasures," Torres finished, understanding dawning on his face. "But 6 hours. Humanity developed spaceflight, split the atom, and cracked FTL travel," Chen replied grimly. "When our backs are against the wall, we're capable of anything." The next 6 hours were a blur of desperate activity. While the defense fleet engaged the architect forces in a fighting retreat, buying time, Chen coordinated with the brightest minds humanity had to offer. Quantum computers processed combat data in real time, looking for patterns, weaknesses, anything they could exploit. Engineers worked frantically to modify weapons and defensive systems based on their findings. Theoretical physicists proposed and discarded hundreds of potential solutions. And all the while, the clock ticked down. But with each passing minute, Chen saw something remarkable happening. Humanity was doing what it did best: learning, adapting, evolving. The impossible was becoming possible, the unknowable becoming known. As the final hour approached, Chen stood on the bridge of the Sentinel, watching her crew implement the hastily developed modifications. They had one shot at this, one chance to prove humanity's worth to beings who viewed entire species as laboratory specimens. The architects were about to learn that sometimes the experiment can surprise the experimenter. Time was running out. 5 hours and 45 minutes into the architect's test, Commander Chen stood in Newton Colony's central laboratory, surrounded by holographic displays showing the ongoing battles across human space. The combined efforts of humanity's greatest minds had yielded something unprecedented: a theoretical framework for countering the architect's advanced technology. "It's insane," Chief Engineer Paitel said, reviewing the final calculations. "We're basically trying to hack the laws of physics." "That's exactly what the architects are doing," Chen replied, studying the complex equations floating before her. "Their technology isn't magic. It's just an incredibly advanced manipulation of fundamental forces. And if they can manipulate those forces, so can we," Dr. Maya Wang, the colony's lead physicist, finished. She had been instrumental in decoding the patterns in the architect's weapons. "The quantum computer simulations show it's possible, but we'll only get one shot at this." The plan was audacious. By analyzing the energy signatures of the architect's combat units, they had discovered that all their advanced abilities, the phase shifting, the energy manipulation, everything, relied on precise control of quantum fields. More importantly, they had found a pattern in those fields, a sort of underlying programming language. "All ships report ready," Admiral Torres announced over the comm. "Modifications are complete. Though I still think this is closer to madness than science." Chen couldn't disagree. They had essentially turned every ship in the defense fleet into a giant quantum field manipulator, rewiring their shield generators and weapons systems based on their hastily developed theories. If they were wrong, they'd probably tear themselves apart at the atomic level. 5 minutes to deadline, Rodriguez reported from his station. The architect vessel loomed above them, its liquid metal surface reflecting the light of Newton's star. Their combat units had pulled back, gathering for what everyone assumed would be a final, overwhelming assault. "All ships, move into formation," Chen ordered, taking her place on the Sentinel's bridge. "Remember, timing is everything. We'll only get one chance to synchronize our fields." the remaining ships of humanity's defense fleet. 37 vessels of various sizes and classes moved into a precise geometric pattern. Each ship's modified systems were calibrated to generate a specific frequency of quantum interference. 2 minutes, Rodriguez called out. "They're moving," Tactical reported. "Combat units advancing on all vectors." Chen watched as thousands of the Architect's horrifying creations surged forward, their impossible weapons powering up. This was it, humanity's last stand. "All ships, power up quantum field generators," she ordered. Synchronization in 3, 2, 1. Every ship in the fleet activated their modified systems simultaneously. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the space between the ships began to twist. Reality itself appeared to warp and bend as the overlapping quantum fields created something entirely new. The Architect's combat units hit the field and stopped. Their phase-shifting ability failed. Their energy weapons dissipated harmlessly. For the first time, they seemed vulnerable. "It's working," Patel shouted over the comm. "The quantum interference is disrupting their control over local space-time. All ships, open fire," Chen commanded. Conventional weapons that had previously been useless now struck home with devastating effect. The Architect's combat units, stripped of their technological advantages, began to fall by the dozens, then hundreds. The massive Architect vessel above them stirred, its surface rippling with what almost seemed like agitation. "Interesting," the artificial voice broadcast. "You have exceeded parameters. This outcome was unexpected." "We're not done yet," Chen replied. "All ships, execute Phase 2. The fleet's formation shifted, changing the properties of their quantum interference field. Instead of just disrupting the Architect's technology, they began to mirror it, using the enemy's own principles against them. Human weapons, guided by hastily programmed quantum computers, began to phase through the Architect's defenses. Improvised gravity weapons, reverse-engineered from combat data, tore through their supposedly invincible units. "Impossible," the Architect vessel broadcast. "Your species lacks the necessary evolutionary development for this level of advancement." "That's where you're wrong," Chen responded. "Humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our intelligence. It's our ability to learn, to adapt, to take what seems impossible and make it possible." The Architect vessel's surface churned more violently now, patterns of light racing across its liquid metal hull. "This requires reassessment. You have altered the parameters of the experiment." "We're not your experiment," Chen declared. "We're not here to prove ourselves to you. We're here to prove something to ourselves, that humanity will never bow to those who think themselves our superiors." The quantum interference field continued to expand, now encompassing the massive Architect vessel itself. Its seemingly invincible hull began to solidify, its fluid movements becoming sluggish. "All ships, concentrate fire on the main vessel," Chen ordered. "Let's show them exactly what humanity is capable of." The combined firepower of the human fleet, enhanced by their newly developed quantum weapons, struck the Architect vessel. For the first time in the conflict, the supposedly godlike beings showed signs of vulnerability. But as their attacks began to penetrate the vessel's weakening defenses, something unexpected happened. Instead of fighting back or attempting to retreat, the Architect vessel began to change shape, forming into something new and unexpected. "Energy readings are off the scale," Rodriguez reported. I don't know what they're doing." Chen watched as the massive vessel transformed, its purpose becoming clear. The Architects weren't admitting defeat, they were preparing to show humanity something entirely new. The real test was about to begin. The transformed Architect vessel hung in space like a constellation made solid. Its liquid metal surface had restructured into an intricate lattice of light and energy, forming what appeared to be a massive three-dimensional display of the galaxy. Countless points of light sparkled within it, and as Chen watched, many of them began to dim and fade. "Those are civilizations," Dr. Wong whispered over the comm. Each light represents those who came before. The architect's voice resonated through every ship's communication system. Those who faced our tests, those who failed. The display zoomed in on a particular sector of space, highlighting a cluster of stars that Chen recognized as human-occupied territory. Their light burned brighter than the others, pulsing with an intensity that seemed to grow stronger by the moment. For millennia, we have wandered the galaxy, the architect continued. We are not conquerors. We are gardeners, cultivators of potential. Most species, when faced with superior technology, respond with fear, with blind aggression, or with submission. They fail to grow. They stagnate. They die. The display shifted again, showing recordings of the battle that had just taken place. Chen watched as humanity's ships adapted to the architect's weapons, as their hastily developed countermeasures came online, as they turned impossible odds into victory. But you, the architect's voice held something new now. Respect, perhaps even admiration. You saw our technology not as magic to be feared, but as principles to be understood. You faced extinction not with despair, but with innovation. In 6 hours, you achieved what most civilizations fail to accomplish in centuries. We had no choice, Chen responded. You gave us an impossible challenge. Precisely. The architect vessel's display pulsed brighter. It is only at the edge of extinction that true potential reveals itself. Only when faced with impossible odds that real evolution occurs. Suddenly, the quantum computers throughout the human fleet began receiving massive data transfers, complex scientific principles, technological blueprints, theoretical frameworks that made their recent innovations look primitive by comparison. What is this? Admiral Torres demanded. A beginning, the architect replied. You have proven yourselves worthy not just of survival, but of advancement. This knowledge is your key to the next stage of evolution. Chen studied the incoming data with growing amazement. The architects weren't just giving them technology. They were sharing fundamental principles of the universe that humanity had barely begun to theorize about. But why? She asked. Why test us like this? Why not just share this knowledge freely? Because gifts freely given are seldom valued, the architect responded. Knowledge earned through struggle, through innovation, through the fires of necessity. That is knowledge that will be truly understood and wisely used. You have earned this not just by surviving our test, but by surpassing it, by showing us something new. The massive display began to shift again, showing other points of light across the galaxy beginning to pulse brighter, matching the intensity of human space. You are not alone in your potential, the architect continued. There are others who have passed our tests, who have proven worthy of advancement. Together, you will form the next generation of galactic civilization. Together, you will face challenges that make our tests seem trivial in comparison. What challenges? Chen asked, though part of her already knew the answer. The galaxy is vast, Commander Chen, but it is not infinite. There are things in the darkness between stars that even we fear, things that require civilizations of true potential to face. We are not your enemies. We are not even your teachers. We are simply the preparation. The architect vessel began to dissolve, its intricate lattice breaking apart into streams of liquid metal that scattered like stardust. But its voice echoed one final time across human space. You have 6 months to prepare, to study what we have given you, to strengthen yourselves, and make contact with the others who have proven worthy. And then the real test begins. As the last traces of the architect vessel vanished, Chen stood on her bridge, watching the points of light that represented humanity burn ever brighter in the galactic display. They had survived their trial by fire, but it was only the beginning. Orders, Commander? Rodriguez asked from his station. Chen looked at the massive data transfer still flowing into their computers, at the coordinates of other worthy civilizations scattered across the galaxy, at the endless possibilities and challenges that lay ahead. Send word to Earth, she said finally. Tell them that humanity's next chapter is about to begin. And this time, we're not facing it alone. The stars seemed to shine brighter as the human fleet began its journey home, carrying with them not just the knowledge of the architects, but the proof of humanity's greatest strength, the ability to face the impossible and emerge stronger. The galaxy would never be the same, and humanity was ready to help shape its future.